How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, welcome to Headcases, and this is going to be a good one this week. We have a gentleman that is a L'Oreal professional artist. He is a New York City-based session artist. He is an internationally known and super well-traveled educator. He is a consistent player on the Fashion Week scene, and in my mind, is probably one of the finest and true and passionate editorial artists that there are out there. So let's get into this week's head case. Drew Schaefering. Drew Schaefering, it is such a pleasure to have you on here. So welcome to Headcases.
Thanks, Chris. I was really excited when I read everything that you reached out, you were doing this, and I was like, well, this is a blast from the past, because it's been a long time since we talked.
Yeah, I think we were just talking about that earlier, just so that people are listening and watching right now. I think 5 years ago, I think, was the last time that you and I had quality time together, just sitting and chatting and doing hair, and that was at NAHA when we were doing the presentation for the opening or whatever session it was in the middle of it, and it was just really fun to get out and hang and do hair. So always a pleasure, my friend. So this, I want to just start it off with. And pretty much every time we do this, people that I don't know who wouldn't know you, but for the people that may not, I think it's always interesting to find out that we've got such a people in our industry that are, our legends, our icons, the people that have moved up the ladder, how they got into the industry. So I know a little bit about you and yours and how you got in, but is it true that you came from destined for a corporate life and then just made a 180-degree turn?
Yeah, I growing up, I was always fascinated with money, and I wanted to be the person that could basically have freedom and make all the money, and probably over glamorize, the romanticized kind of the good parts of that side of a lifestyle. And I went to college, and during high school, I actually started cutting my own hair. And I went to a private boys' school, young men's school, and it basically, I'm sure you remember the styles. Everyone looked like Sonic the Hedgehog anime characters. And it was easy to cut my own hair and make it look as the perfect amount of messed up. And I kind of kept doing that through college. I got a business degree, working double minor in finance and marketing, and came out of school, and I kind of was left with these two options on the table. All of my good friends and family were sitting here telling me, dude, you have this creative side of you. You don't look like a buttoned up tie Wall Street kind of guy. Although that's kind of what I romanticized with. And it actually came down to, I was really struggling with this decision. And my dad worked from home at the time, still does, but I went into his office and he's like, so are you going to take that finance job? And I actually told him, yeah. I was like, it took me an extra year to graduate from transferring, playing soccer, and thankfully school was taken care of through that. But I felt like I was a year behind already. And he just it was this moment out of a movie. He took his glasses off and he looks up and he says, don't take that job. And I was shocked, because what father of a 22-year-old kid getting out of school is going to tell him to go back into hair school, of all things? And I kind of looked at him and he's like, you've got something else about you that I've seen since you were young. That job will always be there. You've got the degree. Go try hair school. Give it a full go. You're never going to leave that job to go pursue hair if you get into it and start making money. So I reached out to some family friends, have a very dear mentor of mine in St. Louis, and they kind of put me on the path, and I really haven't looked back since.
It's really that, Drew, I find that so remarkable. And, I haven't met your dad, but I already love him because, I'm a part of a group that we have 30 beauty schools as well. And there's tons of beauty schools out throughout the U.S. and so on. And everything that we always hear is when somebody says, I want to become a hairdresser, esthetician, nail art, do something creative. The first thing that you always hear is, no, you got to go to college. No, you got to do this. Now, understandably, you did that, but I have a funny feeling that your dad would have pushed you into just being you, no matter what he did. So, for those of you watching, I'm taking off my metaphoric hat and tipping it to him right now. But tell me what was that like? What was your relationship with your dad?
My dad is one of the most sensitive, sweet, loving parents. I'm very, very blessed and fortunate. He was our coach for all of our sports,
Mm,
and really just had full support of his and anything we wanted to do. He and my mother sacrificed and continue to do what they can, everything for us to play sports. And up until the day I graduated college, playing soccer and playing other sports was my life. It was kind of
hmm
my identity. So I was not surprised to have his support with that, and it warms my heart to see everyone else's response and reaction to that story, because it's such an outlier, I think, to
hmm
what a norm would be. And if I would have told him after school, Dad, I want to go train to be a bull rider or join the circus, he would have been like, well, shit, go be the best one you can be.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, thank God he said that. And because that's what I've told my kids their whole life is just do whatever you want to do, because you can just be the best at it and you can be happy. And that's what I kind of picked up on that I don't always hear. I think that there's this thing that parents equate money to happiness, and you've got to get on a trajectory that doctors, lawyers, whatever that might be, so that you're creating money, therefore providing happiness. And especially because we've got so many people in our industry that are of that creative ilk, that they've got to be doing something that they feel creative in, that would just destroy them if they had to do
Yeah.
something that. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from doctors, lawyers, etc.
No,
That
of course.
there's definitely the creative side of that as well. However, people are destined to become great at something, and the fact that your dad saw that in you, I think is remarkable. You said something else that I find is interesting when I interview some of the people and talk to people about this, is that you mentioned sports. Now
Mm.
give us a little bit more about what was that like in your growing up, and what did that lead to?
So I think my brothers and I have an older brother and younger brother, all 3 years apart, and we all were very
Oh,
gifted
middle
in
child,
sports. Totally,
middle
yeah.
middle child.
Guilty as charged. And we all were very gifted in sports and talented, but kind of in our own area. And I think one of the things that I adopted, and it was through different phases of my youth, um, was work ethic, and that got me a lot farther than just my talents. He
hmm
coached most of our sports, and with the exception of ice hockey and lacrosse and taekwondo, he coached our baseball, he coached soccer, and was always we rallied around him. And there came a time to kind of cut the umbilical cord a little bit. And my dad was the coach that he would not tell a kid, hey, you're not good enough to play on our team. He would find ways to make it work. But the result of that was we were not champions of every tournament. And that started to become
Mm,
frustrating for me. I was the captain and the best, player on most of these teams. And he sat me down one day. He's like, it's time for you to level up. And, you're getting ready to go into college or to high school. You need to surround yourself with players that are going to elevate you more. And that
mm.
transition was really tough for me. But
In
I
what
came
way?
out. The only person that had ever demanded more from me and my absolute best was myself. My dad would
Oh,
suggest, but he would kind of like support and embrace with a gentle but
mm,
firm love. I went on a team and had a guy screaming every expletive at me and telling me to get better because I was no longer the best person on the team. I
right.
I literally went from B or C leagues up to the double A in kind of that term. And it took everything I had. And that transition the 2 or 3 year transition into my junior year of high school, I really became 10 times better. And it was, I think my therapist and I have had a lot of different conversations about that demanding more from yourself
Mm-hmm.
mentality. But what it really did in me is it took the support and the confidence I had as a younger athlete or younger man and elevated it, but then crushed it and made me rebuild it on my own back versus from my father.
What was it? I mean, we come from an industry that very touchy feely, and
Yep.
and I even one of my business partners who is a Harvard grad said that his first experience with hairdressers was, first of all, going to an event and they were hugging him, and then having a hairdresser look at him and said, "Hey, I could trim your eyebrows if you want." And so, but we're a very connected group. And I think you found in being a L'Oreal Professionnel educator, and that often we have to um, you can't go yelling and screaming at people because they'll just tell you to you know uh, whatever the words that you would say to you, and then it would just leave. So we have to be
Sure.
a bit more, I'm not saying delicate, but we have to be a different coach or leader in order to get them to improve. And I'm sure you'd agree
Yeah.
with that. What was that like for you when you came from an environment where your dad would give you suggestions, and then you went and I from if I've got it right, this soccer? This was you were big in soccer. Is that correct?
Soccer was my main love. Yes.
Yeah, and football in every other country in
Correct.
the world, but soccer here. Yes. The What was that like for you? What like did that harden you? Did it help you? Did it discourage you? What was that like when you've got a coach constantly yelling at you?
Oh, I mean, I think at first it just totally paralyzed and broke me down, because I hadn't had it before. I didn't know how to deal with it. And, up
Yeah.
until that point, it was really, your whole life you're told that you're great, excellent, and everyone kind of adores you. And then all of a sudden, you're the bottom of the barrel. And so it was really tough for me
Mm,
emotionally. And I hadn't really encountered that in my personal life, internal family, but also external personal life. But what it did is by the time I got to college, nothing could break me.
mm,
There, it was almost like the harder you yelled at me or the nastier things you said at me, discouraging me, I had already told myself those things to get through up until that point in that
got
transition
it.
period. So it was the negative self talk that pushes you, saying, I'm
Yeah.
not good enough. You can't do this. Oh, watch me. And you kind of build that. And,
Hmm.
I think that it's two faced. That type of internal dialogue can, what is it? We have 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day and 80% of them are negative. So I
Yeah.
don't know if it's a good thing all the time, but I learned to use that as fuel to prove people wrong.
Yeah. Do you still have that? Does it still come up like negative thoughts? Some of that
Yeah, it
stuff
really
does it?
does.
Yeah. I
It's
think you're
it's
not
been
human if it doesn't happen. It's.
No, it's a challenge, and I think especially as I've created that habit to use that as fuel.
Mhm.
Um,
How do you get yourself?
don't think of a blue elephant. I mean, what we
Yeah.
think of
Yeah.
a blue elephant. So
Yeah.
it's subconsciously, I think it still resonates a lot.
Yeah. And it's interesting, and I think it's really important that people listening and watching right now kind of get that it's okay. I can remember having a conversation with someone, and it was a leader in our industry, and and they talked about how, and I want to throw this out to you for maybe I'll throw this as your question first.
Mm,
As now, okay, that soccer element, that rising, playing on the double A teams, and having people yell at you to get better. And obviously, there's method in their madness. They want to push you hard. That's what happens at really elite training. Um, did you ever find that when there's sometimes I think an element of jealousy that um, infiltrates our industry. They see Drew come on, he came on board, and all of a sudden he's playing at the top. And do you ever find that people are either jealous or sometimes that comes into it. Does that ever play into what you see?
Yeah, I think it does in a lot of ways. And one of the best ways that I kind of, try to remind myself of is people are never going to hate from the top.
Right,
Um,
right.
so it's,
Wow.
haters are going to be there. And I think that if you have haters, unless you're doing something that's outlyingly really wrong or going against something that people stand for, it shows that you have their attention and that they want what you want. I think it also,
Yeah,
I mean, I was very fortunate in my transition with hairdressing. I got involved with L'Oreal Professional really early. And 6 months out of school, I become an artist on the fast track to
wow.
an elevated artist. And I didn't really know what I was doing. It was all innate and I was green, but I had the support of this brand and all these people. And next thing you know, there's this young kid that I was so motivated taking all of that work ethic I had from
Yeah,
sports, focusing everything, and had such an intense desire to really do well. And I'm sure that there was plenty of people, and I've heard it from many people, saying, "Who the hell is this kid?
yeah, yeah,
He's got the right look for the brand and the this and the that." But I just had to say, hey, I somehow found myself in this opportunity and the door's open. If you're going to tell me that you wouldn't take the opportunity if you were me, like, you're full of shit.
yeah,
I'm doing what
yeah,
I'm doing. And if you haven't found your way to get here, then try a different door, do something different,
yeah,
but don't hate on me.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think it went as you, and that's one thing I want to get the help to the young kids that are listening or watching or whatever is just to don't let those people drag you down. Because I loved what you said. You said hate never comes from the top; it's always
Yeah.
bottom up because of the jealousy or that they won't try and you did or whatever.
Mm.
And I think that what I heard you say is that it's the level that you play at. And I know one of my teachers talked about the four levels that we play at. And if you think about it, you apply it to sports and you apply it to what we do. There's four levels. You participate. You're an amateur. Then you play kind of on an international level and then an elite level. The participates, like when you're in school and everybody played and everybody got a participation award. The amateur was, well, you started to compete, and you had some competitions. You might get the blue ribbon or whatever. But if the international level or the next level up or whatever you want to label that one is that you're actually going to compete and you're doing whatever it takes to compete. But the elite level that you're going to play at is when you're not playing to compete, you're competing to win, and you're going to
Mm.
practice harder. You're going to practice when you're tired. You're going to practice longer than you would ever and practice harder than you would ever have to do in that single environment. That's one thing I think that elite coaches playing to elite athletes, performers, artists will make you practice harder in the practice than you'll ever have to practice in real life. And kind of that's what some people can do it by yelling and screaming at you. Some people can do it with, more of a velvet glove. And so you want to do it and you push yourself through it. But I think you were one of those, I'm not going to say lucky, but one of those people who the universe focused you into that group and you got something, you got a higher level of understanding out of that some of us, me included, I can remember when I was a really top star in sports. Oh no, that wasn't me. No, I started school when I was 4, and I was always the smallest kid. I was always the most insecure kid because everybody in school was 1 or 2 years older than me. And it wasn't until I got out and actually in hair that I got around people that I actually didn't think I was stupid. It was
Oh,
interesting.
wow.
I always thought, because of my grades in school, I always thought I was stupid. But it wasn't until then that and I've told this a couple times in other ones we have, but I only say it because it's true. It's when you get a teacher that will play to your needs, that will help you
Yes.
to feel like you've got worth and you're intelligent or you're smart or you can grow, you push yourself further. So I take my hats to all of the teachers that are out there that do that. So So do you really feel that and my long tirade was that really helped you? Like, what was the biggest takeaway that you got from your professional or your semi-professional sports that took you into the hairdressing? What still stays with you the most?
I think that, I'm going to lean back on something that you said that I really liked is it's, you practice the way you want to perform. And it kind of goes
Yeah,
back to practice doesn't make perfect, it makes permanent. And how you do
yeah.
anything is how you do everything. And I had my high school coach, who is he's the winningest soccer high school coach in the country and is going to hold that record for a long time, I believe. Um, was one of the worst coaches I could have ever had for
Oh,
me,
really? For
because
you?
I was not mature enough mentally, and I was not confident enough to basically handle the head games and the way he
Uh,
manipulated and maneuvered. He has all my respect for what he does. I think he belongs practicing a much higher level, but he's had wild success.
yeah, yeah,
Fast forward to my club coach, which for those of you listening, you're not familiar with club sports versus high school. I was playing soccer year round at one time during high school for the school team, and then the rest of the time of the year for club. And my club coach was the one that kind of had this balance of that tough love and that support. And my biggest takeaway was that I could get it done, that I didn't
mm,
have to, that somewhere, whatever he started saying to me and the support mixed with that tough love started instilling something in me that was like a fire that I allowed to burn, that gave
mm,
me confidence and gave me that kind of shit, I could do this.
yeah,
Whatever it is, I can get through it. And by the time I was in college leading my teams and having the success I had, I was the ringleader carrying the shield,
yeah,
full of vigor and energy. And if someone was slacking off in practice, I remember being a freshman, my first year, I was yelling at one of the seniors on the team because he was just goofing around, and I was like, "Yo, we're here to play. We're not here to mess around, play."
uh-huh,
Um, and so it's just this wild confidence, and sometimes it's probably idealistic and delusional at times,
mhm.
but it's just a confidence, and
Yeah,
I think that I say that while probably not being the most self confident person, but I have this experience of overcoming these obstacles and becoming this stronger, better, um, more more competitive version of myself that I didn't have before. And that translates to anything that I do in life. So I think everything that I do goes back to self discipline
yeah,
and just being like, okay, look in the mirror. Okay, what
right.
did you do before this? You can keep going, keep doing
Yeah,
whatever you want to do.
yeah. I think and I'm going to put it back on your dad that probably helped you with that confidence issue because I think that's something you have to get a certain way along the line from someone that gives you the confidence to move forward. And to me, confidence doesn't mean that you're the smartest. Confidence doesn't mean that you're the best, but it means that you have that self belief that you can move the
Yes.
move the needle forward. And I think that's the biggest thing that I see from people is that it's the quit. Is you've either got confidence or you've got the quit in you, and it's way easier to quit. And so for
Oh
people
yeah.
listening and watching right now, just always think about that because I'm going to ask you the question because I have it all the time. I get, pardon my language, for those of you who don't like cussing, I'm going to say a word here if you want to put it on mute or whatever. But I'll look at someone and go, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Why do you continue doing this if you don't feel good about it? But everybody has those moments. It's the difference between emotions hitting you and obsession hitting you. And
Mm.
and I was talking about that earlier with a person in our industry said something to me at one time that there's a difference between emotion and being obsessive. Emotions are normal. You're always going to go through that. You're going to always feel like, what the hell? Why am I doing this? But it's the confidence just to get past that and not let the quit take you out of the game. And I think that was a really big one for me.
I
I
love
think
that.
when I hear people say, like when you said, I'm this young rookie on the team, and yet I'm dressing down one of the seniors. And some people might see that as cocky, and other people will say, "Look, I know my position. I know my position on the team." And leaders, I think, are made and grown from the ground up. And if you got that position, you're willing. Michael Jordan did that all the time, right? From the first time that he was
Mm,
on the basketball teams, he was dressing down people that if they weren't playing right. And I think that's the way you get a championship team. So good on you.
Thank you. I mean, it's something that you said is just the way the difference between emotion and obsession, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to become obsessed in the moment, and it's hard to control that obsession when your emotions start to get in the way. And I don't think there's
Mm-hmm.
any person successful or even having mediocre success that still doesn't struggle with that emotional side. It's
Yeah,
just you have to
yeah,
allow something to overcome it.
yeah. Well, when you obsess on something, like it's when if I'll give you the example. If I get mad and that mad happens today and it lasts 20 minutes, or I'm really PO'd about something, and that means tomorrow I'm still mad about it. That's okay, because that's just a length of time. But if I'm still mad about that 6 weeks from now, that's obsessive. That's an
Yeah.
obsession. That's sickening. I mean, I don't mean from that. I'm sick. That person. I'm sick of that person. I mean, it's just it can destroy you. That's an illness. So
Mm.
my psychobabble, I think, is gone now. I want to talk about you and how you went from, what was it like with that? You went into school, young kid, plucked out of school, thrown into education. What was it like at the beginning? Tell me a little bit about your first educational experience. They're going, Drew, hey, you're an educator. Get out there.
Yeah, I had no idea what I was signing up for, honestly. I
Yeah.
mean, I um, went to school. I went to one of the salon professional academies in St.
Uh-huh.
Charles, Missouri, outside of St. Louis, and get involved with L'Oreal. And I'm always relating things to being an athlete, and I get asked to try out for L'Oreal Professional, and I think they're just going to be a sponsor of mine. I'm thinking like, oh,
Yeah.
cool, you're going to send me stuff. I'm going to be on like a magazine. I had no idea. And then I go in and I think I teach some regional product class. What of the things that you start to do to get your feet wet and
Yeah.
get
PK
confidence going.
classes. Yeah.
Yeah,
PK, product knowledge classes.
I just it I can't believe that it was anything other than a fumble, and it was probably memorable for them in the worst sense. I certainly think it was probably traumatizing for me because I did not know how to communicate. I did not know how,
Right.
how to be confident and stand in front of people because I wasn't even confident in myself yet. As I think we're always growing to be a more confident person. But at that time of my life, you put me on the soccer field, I was great. Here, I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, I'm in an industry full of people who've been doing this light years ahead of me, and all of a sudden I'm put here. And I just remember being absolutely terrified. And I think it really made me question: is this for me? Is this what I want
Yeah.
to do? And thankfully I had good support and had
Yeah.
some mentors that kind of said, "Hey, look, this is normal.
Yeah.
You're gonna get there. We see it." So I fumbled through a handful of them, but I think the
Yeah.
most terrifying one was a an artistic summit L'Oreal Professional had out in Las Vegas, and it was when I joined the kind of the elite team. And I just remember looking around at all of the people and the names I had seen, at the shows, on the billboards, and on this, and I'm like, "What the f am I doing here? Like,
Yeah.
I'm the black sheep of all the golden geese here." And um, but somehow it worked out, and I kind of just stuck through it. And I had a lot of people saying very complimentary things that helped me get
Good.
over any issues. Just saying, "Hey, like, yeah, you're young. Just stick with it." And so I think that at that moment, had those people been yelling at me the way my previous soccer coaches would have, I probably would have ducked out the back door and did an Irish goodbye. But thankfully, it didn't happen.
I remember this is the first one when I went, oh my, OMG, being on stage or doing a show or a classroom is way different than the salon. Because I remember in the salon, you do hands-on with your apprentices, et cetera. And I remember going, I believe I was in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and they said, okay, we want you to stay over another day. I went, oh yes, more money. And they said, we want you to you're going to do a hands-on class. And there was my classroom. And then, like you said, all the other big names had their classrooms. And I remember I don't remember what it was. I think it was like a 3-hour class. You had to do a hands-on, meaning, here's a haircut. By the end, you've got to show them and they've got to finish it. And I went kind of on the path that the way I would have done it to an apprentice in the salon. And I remember they came in and said, time, everybody's out, time for break, time to switch classrooms. And I watched all my people pick up their mannequin that had maybe, if they're lucky, half of it done. And the other side was still long. And I walked out, everybody else is walking out with their mannequin all the way complete, et cetera. And I went, yeah, I need to learn how to be able to teach and communicate and get this stuff out in an organized way. But that was it's sometimes the failures that you had there make you stronger, even though that night I wanted to go back to the hotel room and curl up in my fetal position with my thumb in my mouth and my wubby wrapped around my body. But that makes, I'm with you. But now we know the level that you teach at now. But the other part, and where I take my hat off to you, because it's really different than most of what we do on stage and at seminars, et cetera. And I want to jump into your career that you had as an editorial artist. Mm-hmm. So, and I think most people listening, watching right now, they know what NAHA is. They know what hair competitions are. But can you help us to understand what's the difference, or in your mind, what's the difference between somebody doing a photo shoot for a competition and a photo shoot in an editorial setting?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think the best way to kind of separate these things, and I had a friend of mine who I worked with closely for years explain it to me like this, that makes sense, is it's kind of like different tribes. And the hairdressing community, and if we think of like a hairdresser who works in the salon, also there are hairdressers who do NAHA that also work in the salon. And so there's not always crossover, and you don't always get to play in the same sandboxes. Mm-hmm. And when you're going for an editorial focus, there's so many other components that come into play that the hair is not always the focus. You are creating a story that is usually used to either romanticize and fantasize and create something that's of a different kind of ethos, not of the everyday life. But it's different from NAHA in the sense that there's a different type of cohesion. The hair that I see, because I've yet to participate in a NAHA event, but I've seen countless images, is there's so much more of a hair focus. And a lot of it is based on technique and kind of what is the craziest yet still beautiful thing we can do with hair and create an image of that. And when it comes to, I'll call it more fashion focused, whether it's commercial, editorial, any of that, it's sometimes the simplest thing that you can do with the hair, but it's the exact right thing at that moment, makes the most beautiful image for that. And I think for me, that is the biggest difference between the two, because I've seen some of the most wildly talented techniques on either side. And if you talk about like taste, not that one is better, they're just all different. Sometimes it takes a certain recognition of the taste that is needed to complete this image for this story, and the makeup is more of the focus. And so I think that it's just a different beast, and that might not. I hope that makes some type of sense, because for me it's a little challenging to decipher. But I think hair focused versus project and group focused is a big part of it.
Yeah. So and this might be, just tell me this is a stupid question if it is, but I just for like, because I've been on that background too, and I mean, you do it way better. I choose not to do that side simply because you have to have a really strong skin when you're out there as an editorial stylist as well. But can you take us just a little bit deeper so that the average person that doesn't do either one would understand? If he said that I want a ponytail in the hair for this shoot because I want the hair to be the star but not the star. I want a ponytail, but I don't want it to be a ponytail. And you know, there's all these little nuances of the way that an editorial stylist can really make that photograph based on how they can think of something that isn't just a ponytail. So I don't know if it's fair
Yeah.
question or not, but
So I think, you know, if we think what is a ponytail, great. It's something where the hair is pulled back. Well, what does the texture of the hair have? What,
yeah,
is it wet or dry? Is it fuzzy? Is there product? Is there a part? Is it pulled
yeah,
tight back? Is it loose? Are there any little face frame? Where is the accent on the clothing? What's the model's features that are strongest? Is it a high ponytail? Is it really, really low so it's almost
mm-hmm.
invisible? All of these little things. Does the model even have enough hair for a ponytail? Do we need to create that? Do we need to basically make hair disappear so that the ponytail is skinnier? And so
Yeah,
it's kind of like asking someone to make their version of a hamburger or cheeseburger. Like, what are all of the elements that you're putting together to make that the best version of that? And
yeah,
sometimes it's, all of those things. And then I think a challenge is also, as we're hairstylists, and I think we all have, everyone has an ego, but I think a lot of us have a bit of an ego in a way to kind of, I want to make it
yeah,
mine.
yeah,
What is it that someone's going to look at that and say, that is Chris Barron's ponytail? I
yeah,
know who did
yeah,
that hair. I mean,
yeah,
if we look
yeah,
at one of the most impactful hairdressers of certainly my time is Guido. You can
yes,
tell when Guido does hair.
yeah,
And it's everything he does is just remarkable, and
yeah,
it always is on point. So if you're listening to this and this is a new conversation for you, Guido is one of certainly my top hairstylists in that area at the moment. Still, he's pretty remarkable at doing those little
yeah,
nuances.
yeah. When when the Met Gala, or when I'm sorry, the museums have his work of the hair in the museum, and that's featured, not the clothing, then
Yeah.
that you've made it. This episode is sponsored by the Salon Associate Accelerator from trainersplaybook.com. Are you struggling with the time and cost of associate training? Do you feel like your salon is running you? We'll get your associates on the floor, all with 90% less time from you, so you can get back to building your business. Get them world-class design, finishing, color, and client care skills they'll use every day for the rest of their career, while you focus on realizing your vision. Go to trainersplaybook.com and get the Salon Associate Accelerator. And now, back to the show. What's it like? And I've talked about the thin skin you have to have as an editorial stylist. What is it like when you go in there? Because here's the way that was kind of put to me: when you're doing a shoot for Naha, a photograph for your salon, a photograph for your portfolio, something that you want to show off your hair, you're the creative director.
Hmm.
And I remember I remember it very well. It's all those S words that I have a hard time with. But I remember that we were at a shoot, and I remember one of the artists that we're with, they told that person to change the hair, and this person was just throwing a hissy fit that, no, I won't do that because that's not my work, etc.
Mm.
And I remember that sort of as leading the team, I had to pull that person aside and say, listen, when you do your stuff normally, you have that advantage because you're the creative director, and you can say, no, that's not my style. No, I won't do that. No, I won't, whatever. But you're not the creative director here. You're the stylist, and and there's a kind of thing. Stylist usually on terms means your wardrobe, but I mean, you're the hairstylist. And if they want something different, you better damn well get out there and do something different. You're not going to get hired by them again. So,
Exactly.
but what's it like? And you're in that all the time. What's it like for you when that happens? What do you do? What do you feel like inside, and so on?
I think what it's like for me now is wildly different from what it was. I think before it used to bring up, oh, my work's not good enough. Oh, they don't like me anymore. Oh, how do I save face? And what I've really
Yeah,
learned is, hey, this is a group, this is a team, and we are part of a team to get the right
yeah,
objective done. So then it becomes a question of, okay, cool, we want a different ponytail. What do we not like? How do we go this direction? And the more you include the team that also has a sounding voice on it, you're gonna get input and dots to connect so that
yeah,
it's not only on you.
yeah,
And so it is definitely a challenge. I think anytime someone says something's not right, as an artist, it makes us feel inferior or a lack or a void there. When in reality, it's just how do we find a different creative solution, and how do
yeah,
I be the hands that the group can make a decision on it? Because it's the most successful shoots that I've been a part of, whether it was assisting or I'm the lead, it is a group discussion. And whether it's just
yeah,
you and the makeup artist at the hair and makeup area, be like, hey, how do we feel? Yeah or no? And I think there's also something that's different for editorial and fashion outside of salon work for photo shoots or nahas. You kind of have a vision board, and that
yeah,
vision board gives you a texture and
yeah,
little details to focus on. So kind of when in doubt, you just kind of go back to that vision board, and that's usually put together by the photographer and the stylist or any creative direction. And if you kind of lean into that and then just speak to everybody and have that
yeah,
kind of team mentality, that really is helpful because it takes a lot of the
yeah.
pressure off of yourself.
Yeah, and what I love about when I look at editorial work, the hair generally looks not like I'm being. If I say it, it looks like they did it themselves
Hmm.
in a very fashionable way. But that is such a talent in and of itself.
Yes.
Especially if you're a hairdresser wanting perfection in your work, and then you've got to make something look fashionable, beautiful, sexy, and make it look like there was no work that went into it. And it takes 10 times more work to do that than it does to make it look perfect. So that's where
Right.
I went. That I'm going to leave this to other people because you do that way better than I can. So I take my hat off to you in that regard. And maybe I'm a little more thin-skinned and a little more insecure than you are. But so
Well,
uh,
I think, one of the things that hairdressing teaches by nature: systems, consistency, reproducibility. And that is one of the things that I find in the editorial and fashion world is very positive. And it's also
mhm,
challenging because if you do let's say you're curling hair, and we are taught behind the chair, curl the hair this direction away from the face, and it starts to become consistent but kind of uniform, you lose nuances. And a
yeah,
lot of times the biggest difference between something looking more editorial versus more uniform for maybe a more perfect sense is the little nuances of breaking those systems of,
right.
I'm going to do this because it's then going to look perfect. And so I think there has to be a playfulness with being creative with it that relies on the experience or the knowledge of what it's going to do.
Yeah, yeah. So would you say, how would you say that you are as a person when you get into photography or any time that you're doing a project? Do you find that you're more in your head and here's what I conceptualize it myself and then put it out? Are you a collaborator?
I think a lot of it depends on who I'm working with.
Mm,
Um, if it's a group of, if it's a team, a photographer, a stylist that I've worked with several times, we have a great rapport. It is very collaborative. But
Hmm.
I feel like the first few times I work with somebody, it's kind of like a first date. And you want to show up and you want to be able to prove that you're worthy of being there in a sense. And
Hmm.
that can sometimes come around to bite you because maybe you might overdo it.
Yeah.
And it's really, I think that there's no consistency to it. I'm an over prepper most of the time.
Oh.
I will show up with, 3 suitcases full of stuff and extra
Yeah.
wigs and pieces.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and I have also found that sometimes that over prepping has taken me so far off course from what we needed to
Yes.
do
Oh,
that then I'm trying to show all of this stuff I prepped. And so I think it's, it comes back to just now I show up with feeling confident in what I've prepared mentally, physically, but also very open. And
yeah.
I really try to leave my ego at the door and just say, hey, like, I'm here for a reason and
Yeah.
I'm a part of this team. So how can I be the best for this position? Doesn't
Yeah.
matter about me showing off myself.
Yeah. I laughed when you said I'm an over preparer. I raised my hand and I went, "Hi, my name is Chris, and I'm an over preparer." And to which everybody would say, "Hi, Chris," but I know what's happening. My son is actually, and I don't know proper the word, producer, director, whatever of these podcasts, but I know he's sitting there laughing his took us off here because he knows that's exactly what I am. I'll try to I'll spend 20 hours and then only like even for the program, I've got like about 40 questions to ask, and I'm not going to get to half of them. But that's just that over prepare. So,
Do you ever find
but
do you find that helps you as much as, anything, or do you ever find that actually can kind of be almost overkill and take away from
yeah,
something else that could be less prepped?
yeah. No, it's funny when sometimes when I over prepare, it something doesn't turn out as well if I just have to do it just on the spur of the moment. But it's a
Mm.
fault of mine, it maybe, and call it insecurity, call it whatever that might be. But I just feel that I've got to get it right. I would sooner have to have 50 Legos to make that I have to do 10, make something out of with 10 than not have the right thing there. And that's
Yeah.
just that. I don't know where that came from. I don't know what kind of psychosis I have. I don't know what kind of therapy I need for that. But um, my team is constantly trying to get me just get it to Dad, just get it to 80%. Otherwise, we're never going to get this damn thing done. So um,
That's
I want to throw because I see hairstylists as hairstylists, and I
mhm.
see others as I see as true artists. And I don't mean that as any way of saying that somebody is or is not, but I've always viewed you as that kind of artist guy. I've watched you work. I watch you play. I try to read your mind when I'm watching you work, but I really truly see the artistic side coming out of that. And um, I was watching TV this morning, and there was a rapper that was on, and they were doing sort of like a docu series on it, and it was Tarek Trotter. He was one of the co-founders of the Roots, and they called him. I think they called him the greatest rapper's greatest rapper, or no,
Mm.
the greatest rapper's favorite rapper. And but when they were talking to him, he said that there was this thing of this angst that happened in his early life, and then how that kind of pushed him forward, but it also made him he had to reach out to something to more or less save him, and that was art. And so art, when he put it down with art is what saved him from himself and got him to be where he is. What do you feel that that's like with artists in general, or with you?
Well, I mean, first off, thank you for the compliment. That's very high coming from you. I think that art is a form of expression. And I once heard a friend say that something that is truly art is a result of something that could not be told in any other way.
Right.
So it's
Wow.
something so unique. And,
Say
I
that
think
again.
if you
Say that
art,
again.
yeah, something that is truly art could not be communicated, told, or shown in any other way.
Wow.
So if you think of, the right painting or the right song, like if you were to try to to change it and tell it in a different setting or medium, it just would not be the same.
Right.
And that's always kind of stuck with me. And I think that, Rick Rubin, I don't, speaking of musicians, are you familiar with who
Yeah.
Rick Rubin is? He,
Refresh me.
so he's worked with everybody from Johnny Cash, Lady Gaga, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Eminem, one of the most prolific music producers. And he wrote a book and came out with it earlier this year. It's called The Creative Act, The Artist's Way, or
Hmm.
The Creative Act, An Artist's Way. I don't remember the title. One of the most profound books I've ever read. And it is basically just all of these different excerpts of how artists creatively have output. And it is often just like what we're going through and all of these different things happening. In being creative is something as simple as taking a different route home because of traffic, or it could
Hmm.
be writing, the most beautiful song. And I think that at any stage, and from my experience, my favorite hair slash art or anything I've ever done has come from a very intense emotion. And I
Ah.
think that, that's kind of, if we talk about the tortured artist,
Uh-huh.
there's so much to lean on and do. But the challenge comes when you're doing hair. How, how much of that can you really put out? So that enter chat, the discipline and the work ethic and all these different things.
Hmm.
Um, so I think for me, it's, I think art definitely has, hair opened up me to being creative. I was always creative, but in hair, I found how to be creative for myself.
Mm.
And I find that as the deeper I get into hair, the more I'm using other forms of inspiration or other ideas that actually have very little relevance, but somehow in me, I put it in my own personal blender and something allows me to kind of create more from that.
Yeah.
Um, that's a very long-winded answer that I don't know
No,
if I
it's
even
good.
touched on
Great
your
answer.
question.
Just to push you just a little bit further on that, it and the art side. Let's say if hair couldn't be your medium for art and expression right now, where would you go with it? What would you do? What medium would you take that creativity to?
Given the skills I have, and if I had to do it tomorrow, I'd paint.
Whoa,
Um,
nice.
I also would be interested in doing. I have an interest in fashion, but the commercialization of stuff kind of takes away from that from me.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
for me, it's something, I think a lot of us have. We want to do something with our hands. It's that tact,
Yeah.
feel. I do love the relationship, service-based relationship side of what we do, but there's
Hmm.
something about just painting, and
Yeah.
it's a form of expression that there's no limits or no bounds to it. I also don't know if I'd make enough money to live in New York any longer, so that would be a different conversation. But I
That
would
is true.
enjoy that. Yeah.
It's interesting because I find that I don't know about you. This is just totally off topic here, but like I find that as an artist is what takes my mind and helps me to escape. Like what do I
Mm.
do? Like when like I love the avant-garde. So when I can sit and that's part of what my hand's screwed up right now. But just I can braid for hours and hours and hours while I'm trying to think of what am I going to do with these braids when I've got them done and
Oh,
and I
wow.
love the intricacy of things. So I but to me it's therapy. I can just think, and it's almost like meditation. I can just sit and braid, and my thoughts go in 100 different ways, and but it's all calming to me.
Mm.
And whereas I know other artists like I work a lot in creating stuff with my yours and my good friend Ruth Roach, and Ruth will say, "No, it's got to be fast. I got to get it done with and over with right away." So she marvels when I can spend hours doing something, and I marvel with her because she'll say, "No." screw that. And she goes, "Bleh," and she just puts it into her hand, moves her magic hands, and it's done and beautiful. So yeah, I don't know if that led anywhere or went anything with that, but just something that you said sparked that in my brain.
I mean,
So
I love that. I think that anything that you enjoy doing, if you lose sense of time, that's not a
mm,
bad thing. It
yeah,
means that you're in a state where you're not worried about how long it's taking. And it sounds
yeah,
to me, it says that you enjoy the process. The
yeah,
process is
yeah,
the journey of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And one day when I have more time on my hand, I've always wanted to sculpt, and
Oh
and
wow.
I've never done it. I've never done it. I've never. I don't even. I only did one thing, and it came out reasonably well. And I just said, "Wow, I love doing this." So we'll see. We'll see as that goes on. But okay, um, big into sports, went into hairdressing, editorial stylist, educator. What the hell do you do to wind down when you come home? What is it? What when
Mm.
you're done with all of that? What's it like for you when you get back to the house, the apartment?
Uh, I think there's a handful of things. I definitely I struggle winding down.
Yeah.
Because I have the creative elements and all of these things working. I see clients in a salon that I creative direct at, and then I have a company as well. And I think for me, I feel kind of like a shark. If I'm not moving, I feel like I'm going to die. And
Uh,
I think
uh,
we could. There's a lot of psychoanalysis we could dive into with that, but I'm starting to learn how to become better at being calm. I'm starting to
oh,
embrace reading again. I'm starting to embrace writing poetry again. Um, Things that are not workout and energy based. My girlfriend would say that my love language is to be left alone.
oh,
And so while that's not necessarily true, it's more kind of just being at peace with myself and
yeah.
not having to think. And whether that's watching a movie, um, I love cooking. That to me,
Mm.
it's the process. I love
Oh, we can be
that
friends. We
element
can
of
be friends.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so there's a handful of things, but I do operate better. I feel operate
Yeah.
better when I'm have more things going on than not.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth with this one, but would you class yourself? Are you an introvert, an extrovert, a normal vert? I don't know what the middle is, so I just made up a word.
Yeah, normal vert sounds pretty good. I like it. I would say that I'm an extroverted introvert. That
Oh,
I, by nature, I it's exhausting for me to be around a lot of people.
yeah,
Um, I recharge in my own energy, but
yeah,
obviously in our industry and just with the service based relationship based industry, you have to learn how to work with people, and that can be really tiring. But I do I like to be in quiet, calm settings more
yeah,
now than before.
yeah.
How
It's
about yourself?
I'm a true introvert. I'm just all the
Yeah.
way through and through. I am a showcase extrovert. I've had to learn. I learned how to get out of my own way when I'm in front of an audience, and then I become an extrovert. I don't think
Mm,
it's an act. I think, I've had to learn to get over my insecurities that of stepping on the stage, and I just there's just a process that I go through this before I step on stage, just so I can, I always know that if I care about them and I love them and I know my shit, I can get on stage, but. So I'm always good, and I always love it when I get off stage or in a small group, or whether it's 5 or 10 people or 1,000. I always almost always feel good when I get off stage. I know when I blew it. I know when I
yep.
didn't do it right. I know when I did something wrong. People always say, let's debrief. And I went, I know I sucked. So just want to find out what I sucked at so I can improve. But the reality is I know that I'm an introvert. I like being at home. I like small gatherings. I like my family around, few friends. When it gets beyond that, then, that's when I'll kind of pull myself back a little bit and just listen.
Sure.
So, yeah, you should get your own podcast. You're asking me more questions than I'm asking you.
Well, yeah, that's great. Makes for good conversation.
Yeah, it does. Listen, one thing, I always, I remember, and I don't know if you ever had to do this. I've been involved with people, and they said, based on what your intention is for your life, um, and what you want to give out to the universe, to the world, to the people, spiritually, financially, emotionally, etc. They always did that exercise of um, what would you want your tombstone to say? And I think their whole point was, if you want it on your tombstone, you live it and you do it. What would you want your tombstone to say?
I've actually never been asked that. And however, in as many or as few words, something about unlabelable. Like
Wow.
you can't put a label on this individual as far as what they liked, how they impacted, what they gave back, what they were able to achieve. Like to put me in a box and categorize that, to me, is I don't like that. I like kind of this how do I put it? Just the fact or the idea of it's hard to put a label on me.
Yeah.
I think that's where my head goes.
Yeah. I don't remember when I had to do that. I don't remember what I wrote at the time. Mustn't have been true. But even as we're doing it right now, I thought about it, and I think to me, I'm the joker. I would always want to have something that was a little funny, or maybe people look and go, "What the?" And I think maybe right now I'm thinking I'd want on there. I'd want it to say "gave a damn." You
That's
know,
good.
yeah. Just so to me, I always think that's what are we doing to help our industry, to help to grow it, to help to take away some of the stigma that we have.
Mm.
To me, Chris Moody is my business partner in one venture, and I love the man to death. But he always just says, I want to elevate our industry so that when my friends that live in my area that are doctors and lawyers, they see me in the same light without me having to prove it to them.
Oh
And to
wow,
me, I think that's really what our industry is about here. Um,
that's beautiful.
yeah. What is there been as you went through this? Is there and I want to make sure we talk about this in here, but because you also have become an entrepreneur and you've
Mhm.
got Crux, Cruxe, your brand. Um, so give us a little bit more about it. What prompted you to get into that entrepreneurial side as well as all the other things that you do?
I think for me it was the kind of the tail of my my finance side and my business degree kind of catching up with me and meeting at a point in my career where I saw opportunity. I saw opportunity there. When teaching a class, as you know, this people want to hear what you're using, what clips, what
Mm-hmm.
combs, what this. People love to be in the know of that, and the idea of having something when my hands were working and that making money, and then having something else that would be something larger that would help me when my hands stopped moving, was very appealing to me. So I think the question started to become, what does that look like? And so I started Crux by kind of solving some problems that I had. Tools, combs, and clips that I couldn't find. I started finding a way to produce those, finding suppliers, and then really it was like, okay, then what does that look like? So up to
Mm-hmm.
date, we've created a few things, um, and I probably for good and bad reasons have kind of really limited it, because it to me, I don't think that the world needs another company that makes and sells X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
To me, there needed to be a purpose for it, and a
Mm-hmm.
purpose that was greater than a new gimmicky thing. And I say gimmick with all due respect, but not like a one
Mm-hmm.
trick pony and have 30 of these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to me, it was a lot about the brand. And I think it also became a way for me to tell an emotional part of the story of a creative person.
Yeah.
Really kind of leaning into dark and light emotions and how they can be beautiful, and kind of redefining what beauty can be. And so it's been a fun journey, albeit extremely challenging. And that is definitely if I were to restart it and go do it over, I would definitely find a counterpart to take care of the business, because it is not an easy thing to have all of those wheels working and really excel at everything at the same time.
Yeah, it's tough. Well, I take my hat off to you, because entrepreneurship is really, and doing everything else that you're doing is really tough. So I can certainly see how I think it's wise to keep it tight, keep it clean, keep your few products till you get them running, then add one more, then add one more, then add one more. So I wish you every bit of luck on that. So listen,
Thank you.
we've come to this part right in here now where we do rapid fire. Okay,
Great.
so I'm just going to throw out questions to you. First thing that comes to your mind. Ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. I feel like we should. Well, I feel like we've got the championship chess team, and we're going to throw this out and then click a button. I don't know what they click buttons for, but what the hell? Here we go. Okay, good. What turns you on in the creative process?
Isolation.
What stifles it?
My overthinking.
An event or show or thing that you did based on your artistry that you loved the most? First one that comes to your mind. I know there's probably many.
Most recent, did a master class on stage in Greece for 2,000 people.
Oh, wow. A thing in life that you dislike the most?
Getting old.
A thing that you love the most?
Getting better as you get experience.
Good. Most difficult time in your life?
Moving to New York.
Wow. A thing that you dislike the most about our industry?
Lack of proper education.
And things that you like the most about it?
The newfound easy access to education.
Wonderful. Proudest moment of your life?
Oof. Haven't had it yet.
Wow. Well, here it comes. I want you to phone me and tell me when it happens.
All right.
A living person that you admire the most?
My father.
Understandable. A person, living or dead, that you wish you could meet?
Kobe Bryant.
Something that people don't know about you?
That I won a silver medal in the Junior Olympics with Taekwondo.
Wow. I did not know that, Ed. Okay, a month off. Where would you go? What would you do?
I would go to a cabin in the woods, either upstate here or somewhere isolated, and paint and read and just disappear and go inwards.
Nice. Greatest fear?
Wasted time and opportunity.
Okay. Favorite curse word?
Fucking fuck.
Favorite comfort food?
Oh, chicken soup.
Oh, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
Fearless.
Your most treasured possession, personal or physical, I should say. Don't say books, because they see all of those behind you.
No, yeah. Jewelry given to me by my late grandparents.
Oh, wow. Something in the industry that you have not done, but you want to?
Do a beautiful campaign on some amazing tropical beach for like a week.
There. Okay, we've manifested it. It's out there now.
Yeah.
If you had one do-over, and I know that everybody said I am who I am because of those, but if you could do one thing over, what would it be?
In life or in hair?
In anything.
I would have gone and played professional soccer before getting into hair.
Wow. Okay. Now, this is different than what I asked you before about the art
Okay.
side of it, but tomorrow you couldn't do hair. What would you do?
I would put all my focus and energy into Crux and be creative with the business process of things instead of with hair.
Wow. Okay. And if you could have one wish for our industry, what would it be?
I think for individuals to create instead of recreating, to have confidence in themselves enough to know their value, and for it to become a position that is respected among society aside from just a bunch of partiers.
Good on you. So, Drew, if people want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you? If they want to buy and see Crux, where do they go?
Sure. So for Crux, it is cruxbrand.com. So that's cruxebrand.com. Myself, all socials, it's my first and last name, Drew Schaefering. Obviously, I'm not so much on the TikTok game as of yet. So I put more out on Instagram, but
Yeah.
basically any social platform, I'm there. And this is something I always say at every class I teach, every workshop and opportunity. I really have only been given opportunities by others, and it's been through reaching out to people. So if there's anything that you feel like connecting with me I can do to help, feel free to please reach out, send a message. Please don't be discouraged if I don't get back to you right away. But even if it's helping you relocate or you're having a problem with something, if there's anything that I can do within reason to really continue to give back as I've been given, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on any platform.
Yeah, that's awesome. Drew, I think I'm finding is that this platform that I'm on right now affords me the liberty to have the conversations that both of us traveling in different directions could never have. So I just want to thank the universe for allowing that to happen because, I always knew you were a great chap, friend, etc. I can't believe I used the word chap.
It sounded good.
But it did sound kind of cool. It made it sound very continental, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I think that it's blessed me with being able to have these conversations with people like yourself. So, Drew, for being on Headcases, I just want to say thank you.
No, Chris, it's an honor. I really appreciate it. And I love that you're doing this because there's very few people that I know that are as well connected and well liked as you in our industry. So I'm proud of and for you and happy that you're doing it because I can't wait to listen to all these.
It's mutual. Take care.
Thanks, Chris.